Special guest joining me right now. I haven't got a chance really to talk to him off the air, but we'll go right to him live and in person on the air. He is the head of Black Guns Matter. He's going to team up with the CCDL Saturday, September 7th, 11 o'clock at the north steps of the Capitol building. He's also running for political office as well. So I want to make sure I say your name right. It's Maj Toure. Did I get that right?
Maj Toure.
Oh, Toure. Sorry about that, Maj.
That's all right.
Maj Toure. Maj, how are you?
I'm wonderful. How are you today?
I appreciate you calling in. So tell me a little something about the speech you're going to give on Saturday.
So basically, we're going to deal with, the freedoms that we are currently seeing being infringed. Now, when I say that, a lot of people are going to talk about, well, what about the people that were, harmed in mass shootings and things of that nature? And first and foremost, we got to give respect to the family and friends and loved ones who lost people. At the same time, we don't get more safe and more secure by and more eroding our rights. So in essence, our breakdown of, how Black Guns Matter goes to, these different areas, inform people in these localities where their Second Amendment rights have and are being infringed upon, as well as solutions to safe and responsible firearms ownership, as well as the cultural component. Because again, you have these rights, but there's also a bunch of cultural, issues that we have to deal with, as well as knowing our responsibilities that go along with those rights. So that's pretty much going to be the breakdown. It's going to be very interactive. I want everyone to ask whatever question they have, so forth and so on.
And you're running now for city council in Philadelphia, right?
Absolutely.
All right.
City council at large, November the 5th, the election date.
Good for you. That's fantastic. And give me a little background on you. Did you grow up in Philly?
Absolutely. I'm a lifelong Philadelphian. The benefit of being from a place is, kind of like there's two languages, they say. There's proper language and there's slang. Communities are the same. You might know the street itself, but you may not know certain things about that street or that community. That's one of the benefits. My attachment to my community, before deciding to run for city office, my attachment to the community has still been the attachment to the community. And so being able to have boots on the ground and see that these are the similar problems in a lot of these major cities across the nation. We have a unique perspective, as well as we've already dealt with the solutions for a lot of these things. So, November the 5th is the election. For city council at large, meaning all over the whole city.
Right.
Anybody who wants to volunteer, be a social media solutionary, help us out there. They can hit the website maj4philly.com, MAJFOR Philly.com.
And how'd you team up with the CCDL?
So, great minds and people that are freedom minded, and liberty minded, they think alike. So dealing with the Libertarian Party of Connecticut, dealing with CCDL, and them seeing, okay, this is the work that this organization is doing. It's an easy match. We're not too hard pressed more and more lately to find great organizations that are doing the local work. And so whenever we get the opportunity to link up with those organizations in a town, we definitely jump at that opportunity, because a lot of times, again, you deal with certain areas that are urban. You may have the answer, but you may not have an urban liaison. Again, we're talking about cultural relevancy. So bridging those gaps in that space on both sides is, in essence, how we do it to strengthen this conversation about liberty. So that's really how we linked up with CCDL. And obviously, I'm a libertarian. I'm running, my platform, my election as a libertarian. So any libertarian organization all across the nation, we definitely, we're going to roll out the red carpet for them.
Being a libertarian, there's a lot of libertarians basically are very conservative-minded folks. And for some reason, the Libertarian Party has not caught fire, if you will, or caught the imagination of most of the voters out there. And again, for whatever reason that is, you've got a few folks who end up doing pretty well as a libertarian candidate, but it doesn't really happen all that often. Why do you think that is?
For one, the Libertarian Party, our party, even though we're philosophically correct, we're some of the smartest women and men you'll ever know. Civic responsibility, understanding all of that. Problem is we never reach, the urban demographic.
Right.
Urban America is liberty-based. Urban America does have more conservative principles. You tend to be more conservative on certain areas when there's not a lot of money to throw around. You tend to be a little bit more liberal when you got a bunch of money and resources to throw around. So my point there is there's a lot of these philosophies that resonate, but nobody, decided to say, I'm going to go to the areas, we've written, entire voting blocks off.
Right.
Because we think, the Democrat Party is just going to get that vote tremendously, and that's not the case. You have to engage and show.
Yep.
Every time that I break down to the community, hey, some of your favorite people were more conservative or liberty-minded. Everybody identifies with Malcolm X in the hood. Everybody. Everybody identifies from the hood when you tell them about Patrick Henry, when you talk to them about these concepts. With that being the case, we just, as a party, maybe because before, we started doing this work, or we, not to make it all about me, at the same time, we didn't have liaisons. We wrote off urban America, and so it's an untapped reserve of people that can strengthen America. But if you don't know how to speak the language to that demographic, you're wasting your time. Or you should learn how to speak that demographic and not think that you're the end-all, be-all. We have that problem in the Libertarian Party. We are civically, and philosophically, our platforms and our understanding are on point. Translating that, there's a bit of social awkwardness and a lack of humbling ourselves to go do that. So that's one of our missions that, with the work that we do at Black Lives Matter, with me being as a candidate, as a libertarian, and we get super love from urban America because they trust where we coming from as well as they see the work that we already put in.
I'm glad you brought that up because I wanted to ask you a couple of questions about that. Since you grew up in Philly and you had mentioned that either nobody comes to talk to the inner city because either they write that vote off as being Democrat, or when they do try to engage, they just do it in the wrong way. So how important is it? I mean, in some cases, if you're going to a major metropolitan area and you're running for a statewide office, and you go and you ignore the inner cities in these places, like here in Connecticut, for example, like we have Bridgeport, New Haven, Hartford. So if you're a candidate and you're running for a statewide office and you don't go to those cities because you feel like you can't win, and you end up losing by 4% of the vote or whatever, my question is this: so if someone were to go into those inner cities and say, listen, I want to hear what the problem is. I do want to work and I want to try to fix it. How important is that to a voter? Just shaking hands, looking people in the eye, saying, I get it. Here's what we're going to try to do. How important is that?
That's everything. Even with the campaign for Black Lives Matter, we go to the cities ahead of time and just chop it up with the people. As I campaign, around Philadelphia, there's already been a relationship built. Because my entire life, but my adult life, for the most part, I've been doing some sort of interacting with my community. The problem is a lot of politicians, I'm not a politician, I'm a statesman. A lot of times politicians, they're just looking at it as numbers. Oh, well, this demographic votes. Yeah, if you keep saying that demographic doesn't vote. So, and on top of that, being able to be in a space where the people see you real and they can touch you. And not only just, I want to know what your problems are, that's only one part of it. We're going to work together to come up with solutions to this problem. The work that we did at Black Lives Matter wasn't just Second Amendment and firearms ownership training. It was also conflict resolution and de-escalation. If I am willing to arm this person lawfully, I also have to give them the mindset of understanding their civic responsibilities with that human right to self-defense, as well as, changing the culture of ignorance. So I have to present solutions. All of the politicians come and just listen. I need you to do stuff. I need you to be this is what we're going to try. I need there to be an open door policy. But a lot of times they catch that Hollywood vibe. And when they catch that Hollywood vibe, they're looking at themselves as, the Messiah. And the Messiah actually got in trouble. Moses got in trouble when, he stopped doing it. His ego got a little too big. You know what I mean?
I do.
And that's a spiritual principle or a religious story, but it has very universal principles. You got to be with the people.
Yep.
If you got $100 million, the people still need to be able to see you and touch you. If not, don't say you're a statesman. And also, don't act like you don't understand why the people, you leave the people going to leave you.
Well, I'm sorry to interrupt you. What you're saying is so incredibly important, and I hope people get this because I've been talking about this on the radio forever. I think if you can make a difference in the inner cities if you just go there and you talk and you figure out what it is and you actually show to people. And you got to be a legit candidate and a real human being. You can't be a phony. But if you are if somebody who really wants to help people out and be a statesman, you can't do it from a million miles away. You got to do it up close and personal.
Correct. The problem is our party. And I'm very critical of our party. I think libertarians, are tremendously intelligent and freedom-minded people. However, our party has caught in some of those biases and submitted to them, or sometimes not being challenged. It has to work this way. We've seen it even in my campaign. Nobody thought we were even going to get on the ballot because nobody goes to the places that we go. We needed 3,200 signatures. We got, I think, maybe about 7,000. all in one, my demographic, all people from urban America.
Right.
And we tend to be some grumpy people. So if you come and asking for a signature for people that don't ain't had that coffee that morning,
right,
they're not giving you nothing.
Right.
So these are boots on the ground tactics that we have to use. And if not, stop pretending like you want to change things. Our party has to stop leaving money on the floor. We're leaving money on the floor, and I'm saying that as a resource. Our people are a natural resource. If you're not willing to engage and empower the people, stop calling yourself a libertarian. Say you are a philosopher. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Philosophers go off into the mountains and think and write stuff down. And we could use that. That's great. But liberty is for everyone, and that has to be a part of the everyday policy. We cannot follow if we're critical of, and again, I'm not a big party dude.
Right.
It's just right or wrong with me. If we're critical of the Republican Party doing the same thing, if what you don't like as a follower, don't do as a leader. It's the Libertarian Party's time. Now we're going to be in the lead. So what we did not like about other parties, we have to do the same thing. We don't like that the Democrat Party is just feeding bad policies and giving away free stuff and not giving people the option to be more free. Then we can't do it. Whether that's philosophically, intellectually, civically, financially, we have to. What we recognize that we don't like about other parties, we have to implement that, especially in these high pockets of urban America. New York alone, 8 million people that we just leaving that money on the table, and we got to stop doing it. It's worth it. It's going to be hard, but it's definitely worth it.
All right, let me make sure. Let me see if I say this right this time. Maj Toure, did I say that right or no?
Yo, you'd be surprised. People go, Major Toure? Is this you, Major Toure?
So I want to ask you one more question, if you don't mind. Then you can get to what's happening over the weekend, and I'll let you go. I know you're busy. But you get all these shootings in Chicago. You get all these shootings in some of these other urban spots. And I always talk about, the people who are ducking for cover in the middle of the night, the hardworking families who have to live in those areas, and nobody seems to care about them, right? How does the mayor of Chicago live with himself every day when he's not putting more police officers on the streets in the middle of the night when these guys are shooting each other? So my question to you is, and maybe you can shed some light on it for me. I mean, inside these inner cities where all these horrible things are happening, the real men and women, the family people who are trying to bring up a family, go to work every day, they have to be mad as hell, right?
Yeah, they are mad. For one, first point is, how does the mayor sleep at night? He sleeps very well. He sleeps in a very comfortable home in a very exclusive part of, the north end of Chicago. You know what I'm saying? So he sleeps very well. He's not, you're removed from it.
Right.
You do not feel attached to it. So he sleeps very well. The other thing, with that, and that's he, she, whatever, old mayor, new mayor, the person in that seat, if they are not doing a thing, to actually deal with the issue on the boots of the ground, you are going to sleep very well because it's far removed. Now, here's where I'm going to be critical of the people of urban America, including cities like Chicago. You have to understand your human rights as codified, not just stated, codified in the Bill of Rights. The human right to keep and bear arms is a natural right that you have by birth. But the founding fathers of this nation doubled down on the Bill of Rights just to remind you that this is not given or taken away by government. That is a fact. With that being the case, I have to give those communities pushback because you keep voting in the same people. No one's forcing you to do that. You're being coerced, no doubt. But nobody's putting a gun to your head. You have to get informed. You have to get educated. You have to get trained. And you have to locally vote those people out. A great litmus test for anybody in urban America, if you're listening right now. If the politician that you're talking to is anti-gun, is not pro-gun, is not pro-Second Amendment, they are not for you. The right for the people to keep and bear arms, to defend against tyrannical government. If you are a politician that's pushing policies that you as a legislator, you as law enforcement are exempt from, and it's a clear-cut contradiction, and it is not equal protection under the law. That is a great litmus test to see if that person cares about the citizens having themselves the means to defend themselves from the bad guys and bad women, as well as the bad guys and bad women that happen to be in law enforcement and happen to be in government. It's not a whole lot of them, but at the same time, they exist. Tyranny's real. And if that officer or a particular public servant is pushing for legislation that says just trust the government. They are not your friend. Find a local politician or create one. It may have to be you. Create one that is willing to go in there with something seemingly as extreme as the right to keep and bear arms and say, no, every citizen has the right to defend themselves from evil. If they are not promoting that, they're probably not the person for you, and absolute power corrupts absolute.
Fantastic. It's a great conversation. I wish I could talk to you a lot longer. I got to ask you one more because a couple people on the internet are asking me to ask you a question. So if you can answer this, and then I'll let you go. The places like Bridgeport here, New Haven, Hartford in some cases, there's a deny increasing issuing carry permits in those places. Can you talk to that real quick?
All gun control is racist. That's why. Those areas, without even me knowing, I'm not a betting man, but I bet, without even me knowing all of the demographics of the places that slow for concealed carry,
right.
I'm willing to bet that's where there's more urban centers, and I'm willing to bet there's more melanated beings in those spaces. Gun control, from its inception to how it's applied, is racist. The origin of creating a rule for a natural right started because people in America started getting firearms. Period. So now it's just, you can't say, hey, we don't want the black people or the Spanish people or the brown people or the yellow people to have firearms. We're going to come up with exorbitant fees. We're going to make sure that they don't have understanding of civics. It all works together. So that's the reason why they do not want you to be armed. Those people, city managers, mayors, city council people that are pushing for more of that, they should be voted out. That's the reality. Whether they're ignorant of that history or they're aware of it, if they're still pushing for it, they are not a good fit to serve. They are not fit to serve. So that's the reason why you see those slowing up. So, for example, California, super crazy restricted state. They're giving out, concealed carry permits in Orange County. They're giving them out in Beverly Hills,
right,
where it's not more of a need for it because there is not more high concentrated amounts of, poor and working class people in those areas. I'm telling y'all, anybody that wants to challenge me, I challenge you. Hop on DuckDuckGo, type in the racist roots of gun control, and you'll see for yourself. You'll see about the black codes, the slave laws, all of those different things. Right after emancipation, the first gun control is enacted in Virginia as America's created because black people now have full rights to defend themselves. This is a racist policy. It's not me saying it for shock value. It's not me saying it because, I'm just trying to, be like a victim. No, I'm telling you, policy-wise, the concept of gun control was already created to stop people of color from having the means to defend themselves, period. Now, the problem is that spreads into white America as well. They tell them people in Walmart, don't bring your guns in here, but cops can. That is Gestapo tactics. My Jewish friends know tremendously about that. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. My Native American friends, the first federal gun grab, Wounded Knee, massacre. These are all things that we have to change. And that's why we need everybody. If you're hearing this right now, we need your support to keep these classes free for the people that want to come. Firearm safety, conflict resolution, Second Amendment information, political awareness, cultural relevancy. Please, please, please donate. GoFundMe.com/Black Guns Not Matter. We need every single dollar. We got $1 million goal. We raised about $211,000. We got a lot more work to do across this great nation.
Tell everybody one more time about your talk. Where, when, how, where do they go? What do they do?
Yeah, so on Saturday at the Capitol Building, which is that's at 11 a.m. at the Capitol Building, 210 Capitol Avenue, Hartford, Connecticut. Now, there's one also on Friday. Now, the one on Friday, I think that one's closed to the public unless you're on the list. I guess you got to communicate with everybody to get on that one.
All right.
But if you can't make the one on Friday at September the 6th at 7 p.m., then come to the one on Saturday, 11 a.m., 210 Capitol Avenue, Hartford, Connecticut, on the north steps of the Capitol Building.
Black Guns Matter. Listen, thank you so much. I appreciate it.